possible. We're joined by the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, California Democratic Representative Adam Schiff. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. How significant is it to see all these details laid out in great specificity on behalf of the entire U.S. intelligence community?
Well, I think it's wonderful that they put out this report, that they declassified this information. It's good to have an intelligence community doing what it should. And, you know, sadly, that was not the case over the last 4 years under the leadership of people like John Ratcliffe or Bill Barr, for that matter, who willingly and willfully misrepresented the intelligence of the American people. This report demonstrates that now. They were out hyping the threat to our elections from China, suggesting that China was more deeply engaged in trying to influence the outcome than Russia. That just wasn't true. And we knew it wasn't true, and they knew it wasn't true. And we just can't have leaders of our law enforcement or intelligence agencies merely speaking a narrative they think the president wants to hear and not leveling with the American people.
Russia clearly didn't succeed in getting Trump reelected, but can Putin claim mission accomplished for sowing chaos, distrust in the American electoral system and other U.S. institutions?
I think he can certainly feel that his efforts paid off over the last 4 or 6 years. In particular, the Russians pushed out this false narrative of the former president that the elections were the subject of massive fraud. The Russians amplified that message that Americans can't trust their own electoral system. Obviously, a very deeply destructive message that wouldn't gain much traction with Americans, except for the fact that Donald Trump was also pushing this Kremlin narrative. And that made it even more pernicious, more damaging and destructive. We have to get to a point where both parties agree to shun any foreign interference, to condemn any foreign interference. If they're offered stolen emails that are hacked from either party, to turn them down and report to the FBI. That's the only way we protect ourselves, is developing that consensus. It was very hard to do while Donald Trump was in office. I hope we can do it now.
Because clearly the Russians wanted to, what the Russians have tried to do for many, many years, sow as much political chaos, distrust here in the United States as possible, because that would weaken the U.S. globally. The report did find no indication, Congressman, that any foreign actor actually changed ballots or results. How much does that undercut some of the conspiracy theories that have been and continue to be spun about the integrity of the U.S. election?
Well, I think it should help a lot. The former president was pushing this idea that there were going to be millions of fraudulent ballots mailed in from other countries. That there's no evidence of that. And I do think that the predominant threat in elections going forward, just as we've seen elections past, is less changing the actual votes and more changing the voters, influencing the voters. The difference that the report draws, the distinction between influence operations and interference, where they actually try to change voter databases, but nonetheless very serious and pernicious. And just because the Russians decided not to try to change the actual tallies in this cycle doesn't mean that they couldn't be more aggressive in the next. So we still need to harden the defenses of our elections infrastructure.
That's absolutely true. Trump's antipathy to the U.S. intelligence community, of course, was well known. So what do you make of the timing of this report being released after he left office? Do you think this kind of report could have been released while he was in office or if he had been reelected?
It certainly could have been released while he was in office. The classified version was produced while he was in office, but this is, underscores the problem, which is the intelligence community would not release information to the public that was contrary to the false narrative the president wanted to tell. And so, the president was not beyond firing leaders of the intelligence community, even in the last days of his administration, if he felt they were being disloyal. And in his view, telling the truth to the public when it contradicted him was disloyal.
Very, very strong document, this unclassified foreign threats to the 2020 U.S. federal elections. Worth reading if you have a chance. I know you have, I have, but to our viewers, go ahead and check it out. Representative Adam Schiff, as usual, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.